So you might notice something's different. Okay, so I moved and I'm finally here in my new apartment and I've got a new backdrop. And guess what? It's all of the things from my kids that you can see if I just go like this. It's wonderful. No, I'm really psyched because I haven't filmed in so long because I started university and it's been a little bit busy, not gonna lie. I just want to ramble about Star Trek for a while again, and it's just coming. So let's kick it off. Let's get right into it, shall we? One of the many things I find interesting about Star Trek is that it has a long and complicated road to finding its identity. And that is very obvious in the Lost pilot episode that was fully produced before it was scrapped. From what I can understand, when the studio received the pilot, they told Roddenberry they wanted something a little more upbeat with a little more color. This Lost pilot episode is more muted and it tells a more serious story throughout. And it's not like Star Trek can't get dramatic or tragic or even bleak, but it usually has a ratio of, there's some drama and then there's some humor to level it out. And the Lost pilot doesn't really have that. So they had to produce an entirely new, different Star Trek. And they had to get new writers and an almost all different cast. The only two people who stayed on from the Lost pilot were Leonard Nimoy and Majel Barrett. So it kind of feels like Star Trek in the beginning was a little confused about what it was going to be. And you can definitely tell from the continuity errors in people's characters and backstories, and even the aesthetic continuity errors. Not only in the Lost pilot episodes do everyone have different uniforms. Instead of the primary color coding uniforms, everyone has these beige turtlenecks. Just like the uniforms, a really big continuity error comes in the form of Spock's design. The Spock that you see in the Lost pilot and in some of the first episodes they produced is a very different Spock from the one that you see later on. He has a more rough look. He looks like he hasn't tweezed his eyebrows in a while. His bangs are choppy. In some of the episodes, he looks like a blank canvas. He just changes around on hair and makeup quite a lot in those first few episodes until they finally decide, hey, we're gonna do it like this and we're not gonna keep firing the makeup assistant or whatever. I especially love his look in one of the early episodes, the Corbomite maneuver, where Spock just has really heavy blush and liner, and it's just why didn't you keep this for the rest of the series? I like to call these looks pre-reform Spock or pre-makeover Spock. In the Lost pilot episode, the captain is Pike instead of Jim. And you can kind of imagine in series that Spock got a makeover after Jim became captain because he wanted to look good or something. Who knows? There's another reason why I really don't like the alternative original series, because they decided not to let Spock live his life and just wear eyeshadow like he's supposed to. Instead, we have to deal with this garbage. No thank you. One of the big things I want to ramble on about is I watched the Next Generation movie called Star Trek First Contact, which is amazing. But I'm not going to talk about the plot of that. I'm just going to talk about this one scene from the movie that I love so much. And I would like to closely analyze this scene, and therefore I have to start with the boring context stuff. So this movie deals with the day surrounding when aliens made contact with the humans for the first time, and the aliens are Vulcans, and the humans are this scientist named Sephram Cochrane and his team of other scientists. I don't know. Sephram Cochrane is this space pirate-looking dude who is an engineer, and he invented the warp engine, which basically means that, humans went from going pretty fast in spaceships to going faster than light in spaceships. It's the thing that people refer to when they say, Scotty, make the jump to warp speed.
No one says that, but yes.
And the Vulcans had collectively agreed that they would not make contact with humans until humans had achieved warp drive. So they're just like waiting to, ring our doorbell until that day comes, and the movie shows the day where that happens. So in the movie, Sephram has landed the ship back after his warp drive test, and the Vulcans come running. So the Vulcan ship makes touchdown, and we see, at last, the first Vulcan to tread Earth. And in a twist that isn't actually a twist, this Vulcan turns out to be related to Spock, because every Vulcan we see in Star Trek is somehow related to Spock. And his name is Solkar. He is Spock's great-grandfather. On a personal note about Solkar, he is arguably the most beautiful Vulcan. I mean, look at him. He looks like a wax doll. When I was looking for clips to borrow for this video, I was looking at the YouTube comments for one of them, and I swear to God, I ghost wrote this timestamp. Solkar, the great-grandfather of Spock. The comment is, and a Vulcan hottie. It's true. Anyway, back to objective journalism. Once Solkar has exited his Vulcan ship, all the humans are standing around watching nervously, and Sephram is all like, should I go talk to him? And his friends are all like, yeah, man, you got it. Go for it. So he walks up to Solkar, and Solkar, being the good and courteous Vulcan, shows him the Ta'al and tells him the famous line,
"Live long and prosper."
I love the acting in this scene, because if you look at Solkar in this moment, he is smiling just a little bit, very discreetly. And knowing that Vulcans don't smile if they can help it, that tiny Mona Lisa smile is like the Vulcan equivalent of jumping up and down with a vuvuzela in each hand going, "Ah!" Anyway, Sephram is unable to perform the Ta'al. Remember what I said about people not being able to do the Ta'al, and like, have they not watched my amazing life hack video on that or whatever? Like, okay, I guess I'm chop liver. So, Sephram extends his hand to Solkar, and Solkar takes it, and they shake hands. What is so significant about this scene is that, as we already know from Sarek and Amanda, touching hands is very special to Vulcans. So if doing the orchestra is like a little peck, a little, then what would putting your entire hand around a Vulcan's be? Sephram, that wild son of a gun, kisses his hand all over that Vulcan. He doesn't even know it. He doesn't even know he's doing it. It gets better, because we later learn that Vulcans have studied human culture for a very long time, so they knew that someone probably had to shake the hand of a human at some point, because, I mean, what if you're standing there? You gotta shake someone's hand. If you don't shake their hand, that's just plain rude. You can't risk making a bad impression. That means Solkar was fully prepared to get Frenched by the first human he saw. And I would have loved to see that board meeting the Vulcans had where they had to decide who would take this risk. Commander, we have compiled data from our research centers, and I believe there is something you should see. What is it, Cadet? It seems that the most widespread form of Earth greeting involves clasping one's hand around the other's, Commander. I see. And so when we make first contact, someone should be prepared to make such an intimate gesture? Affirmative. I shall volunteer. You made that decision very quickly, Commander. I would do anything for the mission. Are you applying hand lotion, Commander? So what if I am?
Thanks.
And just the look on Solkar's face after Sephram thanks him, that is the face of someone who knows, they're going back for seconds. Which is also very possible, knowing that it was later confirmed that this one handshake, formed a lifelong bond between Sephram and Solkar. A lifelong bond? One handshake. Again, I would like to emphasize that Vulcans reserve this kind of touch for their bondmates. So let's play some inappropriate music over the scene.
I'm on a mission, and it involves some heavy touching, yeah.
Oh wait, I got a better one.
'Cause every time we touch, I get
this simple feeling.
Furthermore, yes, even furthermore, there is a certain genius Tumblr post that speculated that not only did Solkar form a lifelong bond with Sephram, he created an intergenerational ripple of horniness towards humans because of that one handshake. So let's go down the generations, shall we? Solkar had a kid whose name is Skan, and he seems to only appear in a Star Trek novel that I have not read. But I have found his Star Trek Expanded Wikia, and it tells me, and I quote, "He didn't see humans the same as most Vulcans, and believed that Vulcans should embrace humans more than they have." And I mean, the source is questionable, and the placement of apostrophes is downright terrible. But the rest of my sources are not questionable, because Skan's son was Sarek, and I think we all know what happened to Sarek. He married a human, and even further than that, after Amanda died, he married another human. That's not a coincidence. That's a preference. And then there's Spock, and I don't think I need to say anything else. There are only two types of Vulcans. There are the distant xenophobes and the horny unmade for humanity. And they all descend from Solkar. Coincidence? I think not. All because Solkar shook Sephram's hand. Another factoid is that in the mirror universe, which is in Star Trek, there's a mirror universe where everyone is like a big meanie. When they make first contact, Sephram doesn't shake Solkar's hand. He just pulls out a shotgun and shoots him point blank. And it's not funny, but it's kind of funny. Of all the spin-offs that come from Star Trek, some of the weird ones I discovered through YouTube were the audio plays and the audiobooks. I will talk about the audiobooks a little later on, but first, let's talk about this one particular. I call it an audio play, but I'm not entirely sure what to call it. There's an LP from 1976 called Inside Star Trek, in which Gene Roddenberry pretends to be like on a spaceship and he's beaming aboard his characters to talk to them. He's breaking the fourth wall, but basically he's like, "Please talk to me, I need new material." There's a bit where Gene beams aboard Sarek. Gene Roddenberry pretends to beam aboard Sarek just to talk about Vulcans fucking. I'm never joking. He just wants to talk to Sarek about Vulcan biology. The biology of Vulcans? He goes straight into the hard questions that the Trekkies want answers for. Like, what is the gestation period of a half-human, half-Vulcan hybrid? I'm just gonna include a little audio clip here while I have a face journey, just so you can understand how I'm feeling about this.
Spock's mother, Amanda, was human, and somehow she was impregnated by you.
Roddenberry, are you asking if we coupled?
Yes, sir.
Ordinarily, an Earth woman could not enjoy that. If she survived, she might be severely injured, both physically and emotionally.
Regarding that...
Roddenberry, I will not paint a word picture. I will say that humans and Vulcans mate in somewhat similar fashion. In quite similar fashion. But physical contour, mass, duration, and energy do vary.
Better yet is I have read the Star Trek novel called Spock's World, and there's a passage. I'm just going to do a little bit of a reading from a little background information. The text talks about Sarek and Amanda's wedding. Here it comes. The marriage was a quiet one, but the news was still greeted with astonishment from Earth. Sarek took it calmly. One particularly annoying newspaper which published a slight alteration on Amanda's headline, "I married a little green man," received an interesting repose from Amanda when she was interviewed on one of the broadcast news services shortly thereafter. "There is nothing little," she said with great dignity, "about my husband." Sarek did not at first understand the amused ripple that went through the crowd of reporters standing around. Certainly, he was tall by Earth standards. I did not need to know this about Sarek's meat, but it's canon. Turns out when Leonard Nimoy wasn't spending his time removing latex ears from his body, he was busy recording music. And he even sang on that one time on the show. And I just remember when I saw that episode, Plato's Stepchildren, I couldn't really believe my ears for a second there. Because, like, Leonard Nimoy is one of those people who, when he talks, he's like, "Captain."
Our last bit of information was obtained at the expense of 30 hours' work.
But when he sings, he's like, So in the years after the original series ended, Nimoy went out to record albums about Star Trek. He made this LP, which is an entire album where he pretends to be Spock, going on a trek through space and singing about it. My favorite song from that album is called Highly Illogical, in which Spock is like going around pointing out things about the human race that are illogical, but it's like really weird specific things. I really love how absurdly sassy he is when he says, "most illogical."
Now really, I find this most illogical. Highly illogical. I find that fascinatingly illogical.
And better yet, he made an album with William Shatner. The best part about that is William Shatner can't sing at all. I mean, Leonard Nimoy is not some kind of Mariah Carey talented vocalist, but he at least, he can hold a note and stuff. William Shatner does not even try, and it's the best part of it, because he decided he was going to be on this LP with Leonard Nimoy, but he wasn't going to sing. He's going to do dramatic readings of Shakespeare. And I'm just going to have another face journey while we listen to it.
Once more under the breach, dear friends. Once more across the wall up with our English deck. England and St. John! Says that she does not love him anymore. Now, devoutly to be wished. What it takes when he himself might his quietest mate with a bear.
Oh my god. Is he okay? Back to the thing about the Lost Pilot, Shatner once said about the actors in that one that they were overacting. So I'm very grateful, and I think it's great that Shatner and Nimoy made this album together, but I also think it's a huge cop-out because they don't have a single song where they actually, sing together. Like, is it not obvious that they should have a duet? Apparently not, because there's no such thing. It's just like one song with Bill Shatner doing his monologue, and then another song where Leonard Nimoy's like, "If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning." Another relevant point to this is there's the clip of Bill Shatner singing Rocket Man at some award show. It's very good.
Hello. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh, no.
So YouTube is stock full of Star Trek audiobooks because, well, you know, after Star Trek ended, there was a fuck ton of novels written for it. And if you listen to these audiobooks, you quickly catch on to the fact that as an added luxury, most of them are read by original cast members. For example, the book Sarek, which is about Sarek, is read by Mark Leonard, who played Sarek. And it also seems like a lot of them are just read by George Takei. And boy, oh boy, George Takei is given no restraints when it comes to making impressions of his colleagues as their characters. And the weirdest part of this is Takei decided he wanted to give Bones a really heavy southern accent, which is doubly weird because Bones does not have that heavy of a southern accent on the show, but Takei was like, nah, fuck it, we're gonna do it. We're gonna really hammer it in here.
I went to the Grand Canyon. His enthusiasm spilled over. White water rafting. Have you ever tried it?
He reads Scotty's parts with a Scottish accent, and you have not lived until you've heard George Takei do a Scottish accent.
I cannot understand Starfleet handing over its best ship to an inexperienced tyro.
And it warms my raisins. Star Trek having this very old fandom, having cultivated it over so many years, there are a lot of ships, and with ships come ship names. And the Trekkies have fortunately made it very easy to figure out what a ship name is going to be for a pairing, because you can 100% guarantee it's always going to be a portmanteau. Unfortunately, all of the characters' names are weird on their own and horrible when mushed together. Some examples are, well, there's the most popular pairing of all of Star Trek, which is Jim and Spock. And their shipping name is Spurk. Spurk? I mean, I guess if it were the other way around, it would be Jock or something I don't want to say. Worse is Spock and Bones becomes Spones, or maybe Spockoy? McSpock? Worse yet is Jim and Bones, which I'm not fully sure what is accepted in the fandom. I think the most commonly used one is McKirk, but there should also be some others like Kirkoy or Jimcoy, Kirkbones, Jones, Jimbo, and of course the triumvirate is called McSpurk. Like, it couldn't get worse. But it did. I want to give a special shout out to Uhura and T'Pring's pairing name. It's amazing in the first place they even have a pairing, but people call them T'Pura. Also, I don't know what Uhura and Nurse Chapel's ship name is, but I want it desperately to be Chihura. I just really want you to think about this whenever you think that, you know, ship names like John Luck or Destiel are stupid. There exists a series of books made by illustrator Jenny Parks, in which she reimagines the Star Trek episodes with cats instead of people. Jim Kirk is an orange tabby, and before I even clicked the link, I already knew Picard was going to be a hairless sphinx, so good night. It's good. I don't need to say anything else about this.
There goes the neighborhood.
There goes the neighborhood.